My tip jar. If you'd like to be able to support the channel, please just click the link in the description below. And thank you to everybody that's already supporting. Your tips is what's helped keeping this channel going. Now it says, according to the White House, Brennan used his access to classified data to sow division and chaos about the Trump administration. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders told reporters on Wednesday that the Trump administration was also looking into revoking the clearance of a number of former officials, including former FBI Director James Comey and recently fired FBI agent Peter Strzok.
I'd like to begin by reading a statement from the President. As the head of the executive branch and commander-in-chief, I have a unique constitutional responsibility to protect the nation's classified information, including by controlling access to it. Today, in fulfilling that responsibility, I've decided to revoke the security clearance of John Brennan, former director of the Central Intelligence Agency. Historically, former heads of intelligence and law enforcement agencies have been allowed to retain access to classified information after their government service so that they can consult with their successors regarding matters about which they may have special insights and as a professional courtesy. Neither of these justifications supports Mr. Brennan's continued access to classified information. First, at this point in my administration, any benefits that senior officials might glean from consultations with Mr. Brennan are now outweighed by the risks posed by his erratic conduct and behavior. Second, that conduct and behavior has tested and far exceeded the limits of any professional courtesy that may have been due to him. Mr. Brennan has a history that calls into question his objectivity and credibility. In 2014, for example, he denied to Congress that CIA officials under his supervision had improperly accessed the computer files of congressional staffers. He told the Council of Foreign Relations that the CIA would never do such a thing. The CIA's Inspector General, however, contradicted Mr. Brennan directly, concluding unequivocally that agency officials had indeed improperly accessed congressional staffers' files. More recently, Mr. Brennan told Congress that the intelligence community did not make use of the so-called Steele dossier in an assessment regarding the 2016 election, an assertion contradicted by at least two other senior officials in the intelligence community and all of the facts. Additionally, Mr. Brennan has recently leveraged his status as a former high-ranking official with access to highly sensitive information to make a series of unfounded and outrageous allegations, wild outbursts on the internet and television about this administration. Mr. Brennan's lying and recent conduct, characterized by increasingly frenzied commentary, is wholly inconsistent with access to the nation's most closely held secrets and facilities, the very aim of our adversaries, which is to sow division and chaos. More broadly, the issue of Mr. Brennan's security clearance raises larger questions about the practice of former officials maintaining access to our nation's most sensitive secrets long after their time in government has ended. Such access is particularly inappropriate when former officials have transitioned into highly partisan positions and seek to use real or perceived access to sensitive information to validate their political attacks. Any access granted to our nation's secrets should be in furtherance of national, not personal interest. For this reason, I've also begun to review the more general question of the access to classified information by government officials. As part of this review, I am evaluating action with respect to the following individuals: James Clapper, James Comey, Michael Hayden, Sally Yates, Susan Rice, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Bruce Orr. Security clearances for those who still have them may be revoked, and those who have already lost their security clearance may not be able to have it reinstated. It is for the foregoing reasons that I have exercised my constitutional authority to deny Mr. Brennan access to classified information, and I will direct appropriate staff of the National Security Council to make the necessary arrangements with the appropriate agencies to implement this determination. With that, I'll take your question.
According to a statement by Trump, any benefits that the senior officials might glean from consultation with Mr. Brennan are now outweighed by the risks posed by his erratic conduct and behavior. Second, that conduct and behavior has tested and far exceeded the limits of any professional courtesy that may have been due to him. Last month, after Brennan accused Trump of treason over the Zelensky summit with Russia President Vladimir Putin, the White House announced it would look at revoking the clearances of the former CIA chief and other senior officials who have parlayed their status in the Obama administration into jobs as media critics of Trump. Brennan joined NBC News as senior national security and intelligence analyst in February. His criticism of Trump on air and on Twitter has gone beyond questioning the president's policies, instead focusing on claims he is unfit for office. Here's one of his off-the-wall tweets right here. It says, "It's astounding how often you fail to live up to the minimum standards of decency, civility, and probity. Seems like you will never understand what it means to be president, nor what it takes to be a good, decent, and honest person." This guy is a total lunatic.
The White House announced today it has revoked the security clearance of former CIA Director John Brennan. It is considering doing the same to other former government officials who, like Brennan, now work as left-wing political pundits. That category would include former Director of National Intelligence Jim Clapper. It's not clear why any of these men still have legal access to classified material. The fact that they retained that power after leaving government for the private sector and punditry is bizarre, and it remained largely unknown to the public until a month ago when we broke the story on this show. Brennan no longer works for the federal government in any capacity. He holds no official post. And yet, according to two sources we spoke to exclusively today, Brennan retains perhaps the most valuable asset he had in government, a top-secret security clearance. Brennan is an out-of-the-closet extremist. This is not a man who should have a security clearance. A month later, that remains true. John Brennan remains thoroughly discredited and unbalanced. Just a few weeks ago, he accused the president of treason for daring to hold a press conference with a foreign leader. Keep in mind that treason is a death penalty offense. Responsible people do not make that charge for political reasons. But Brennan didn't hesitate.
He is, I think, the most divisive president we've ever had in the Oval Office. He is feeding and fueling hatred and animosity and misunderstandings among Americans. I use the term that this is nothing short of treasonous because it is a betrayal of the nation. He is giving aid and comfort to the enemy.
A betrayal of the nation. Would you want a person who, say, casually accused people of murder without evidence to get a security clearance? Obviously you wouldn't. Brennan is not different. In a statement released today, Brennan called the loss of his clearance an effort to suppress freedom of speech. And yet Brennan is the one who believes that words alone, speech, are a form of treason and should get you sent to prison if not executed. That is unhinged. The government is now belatedly acknowledging that. Lou Dobbs hosts Lou Dobbs Tonight, of course, on Fox Business, and he joins us tonight. Lou, what would be the reason, can you think of a legitimate reason for John Brennan to retain a security clearance after leaving government for punditry?
I can't even imagine why that would be necessary, why it would be, frankly, allowed. After his first personal attacks, not policy attacks, personal attacks against the President of the United States. And what we now suspect was a John Brennan-inspired and led assault on this president, an effort to subvert his campaign and his administration through the good offices and helpful energies of the FBI. It is, to me, unthinkable that he would be permitted to be anywhere near one of our intelligence agencies or any part of this government.
So you've covered the news for a long time. It wasn't that long ago that the left was, I think, appropriately wary of bureaucrats who worked in secret of our entire intelligence apparatus, right, and the idea of unelected, permanent Washington undoing a democratically elected politician would have been horrifying to them, and now they're defending it. Or am I missing something?
No, I think you are absolutely on point, and I think, by the way, you deserve immense credit for bringing this prominently to the national consciousness a month ago when you started taking up the issue of why in the world are these people who are attacking the President of the United States personally permitted security clearances? How could that even be permitted? And I think you deserve great credit for that. But in terms of the spectacle of seeing the former FBI director, the former CIA director, the National Director of Intelligence, James Clapper, absolutely in full-throated assault against this president and attacking him, as I say, personally, almost weekly, and then it became more frequent. We have never witnessed anything near that in this country's history.
I'm confused, though. If you ran one of these agencies and you had an institutional long-term interest in preserving the credibility of that agency, you'd be very upset with people like John Brennan or Jim Clapper because they detract from your legitimacy. They give rise in people's minds to questions about the deep state. They make people nervous. So why are they not telling these guys, slow it down, get off Twitter, stop being overtly political? You're doing damage to the institution, which they are.
There apparently is plenty of support within the leadership of those agencies, the holdovers, the leftovers, if you will, from the Obama administration, not to do precisely that. It is highly questionable to me why we tolerated the former intelligence agency heads becoming part of the mainstream political debate, if you can call their assault on a president personally part of the mainstream debate. But they were attacking him vigorously, viciously, unrelentingly, and it is a spectacle we have never, as I said, witnessed before, and I can't imagine that we'll ever permit again. It is, the agencies themselves have so much to answer for. If there was indeed Russian meddling in the election, quote unquote, why in the world didn't our agencies, those three agencies in particular, know about it and do something about it to forestall it, to prevent it, or to at least carry out retribution for that under President Obama? This was on his watch, not President Trump's. And President Obama has much to answer for in leaving behind a group of intelligence agency directors who carried on the ideological assault publicly and without precedent in American history.
I also find it pretty insane that people that no longer work for our government services still keep their clearance. I still don't understand why. That just makes no sense. And I find it scary that people like John Brennan actually has our nation's secrets in his head. And how do we know he's not going to sell any of this information or just give it away knowing that it's going to hurt Trump in some kind of way? So I'm hoping for everybody from the Obama administration to have their security clearances removed, and also past administration's clearances should also be removed, because it literally makes no sense why they would keep it. Why would you keep that? I mean, these rogue players that actually had security clearance was a pretty big vulnerability that we had to this country. And you just think, if you get a couple of these rogue players into some positions like the Southern Poverty Law Center, for example, then you can sit there and control the social media market and everything. I mean, if you got CIA John Brennan and FBI James Comey sitting there helping you get everybody's records and figuring out who everybody is, all the conservative media outlets, and how to take them all down one by one, it'd make it a little easy, wouldn't it? These people are using their government privileges that they had to go against us, the people. And I am so happy that they're finally eliminating them from being able to do this. I mean, it's totally disgusting the way that they had this all set up. Like, this was totally just purposely set up when they created the CES operations and everything else. It's all one big giant system for them to protect their own selves and not the interests of the people at all. What do you guys think about all this? I think this is really good news. It's definitely something that should have been done a long time ago, and I hope that they actually get everybody else's clearances removed too, because that would only make sense, right? Definitely, what do you guys think about it? Definitely leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace! Please subscribe to our channel, like our video,